start by reading a story. This story is called Common Sense and Anansi Tale. Anansi the spider was full of mischief. Mischief means playing tricks on people. He loved to play jokes and pull pranks on people. One day he decided to collect all the common sense in the world. Everyone uses the little bits of good judgment every day. If Anansi thought, I alone had all the sensible information, I could sell it back to people when they needed it. Anansi imagined people lining up to pay him for answers to the simplest questions. Anansi, what should I wear when it's cold outside? What should I do when I am hungry? This is a brilliant scheme, thought Anansi. I will have all the common sense in the world, and all the money in the world too. So Anansi got a sack and started collecting common sense. Brush your teeth to prevent cavities. Put your socks on before your shoes. Anansi put them all in his sack. The sack was soon bursting at the seams. I need to find a better place to keep the common sense, thought Anansi. Just then he spied a calabash growing on a vine. A calabash is like a big pumpkin. It looked like a giant pumpkin. Anansi hollowed out the calabash. Then he stuffed all of the common sense inside it and kept collecting. When Anansi had gathered up every bit of common sense, he thought, now I just have to find a good place to hide it. Anansi set off through the jungle to find just the right hiding place. He dragged the calabash under the ferns and over the logs. He waded through the streams. Wading is like walking through water that isn't very deep. He trudged from shrub to bush to hedge. He hiked up muddy trails and slid down steep hillsides. Finally, Anansi found the tallest tree in the jungle. This is the perfect hiding place, he said. The calabash will be safe and sound. No one would ever guess that I had hidden such a valuable treasure in such an unusual place. Using a thick rope, Anansi tied the heavy calabash around his neck so that it dangled in front of him like a locket on a necklace. He started up the tree trunk, but climbing was hard. The calabash flopped and swayed. It banged Anansi's belly. It bruised his knees and elbows. The rope burned the back of his neck. But even though Anansi was aching and battered, he did not stop. The thought of getting rich kept him going. As Anansi was struggling upward, he heard someone giggling below. He looked down and saw a small boy leaning against the tree. Anansi called to the boy. What is so funny? He asked. You are, said the boy. Anyone with a pinch of common sense knows that it's easier to carry things on your back, especially if you are climbing a tree. How foolish can you get? Foolish means a foolish person is someone who doesn't have good common sense. The boy's words made Anansi furious. Anansi thought he had collected all the common sense in the world. How could he have missed that one piece he needed the most? The thought made Anansi madder and madder. Finally, he lost his temper and swung the calabash with all of his might against the tree trunk. The calabash shattered into a million pieces. The common sense spilled out and pieces got caught in a breeze. The breeze blew little pieces of common sense all over the world. And that explains why today everyone has a little bit of common sense to use and a little bit of common sense to share. But as you yourself know, nobody got all of it. It was Anansi who made it happen that way. So we learned some new words in that story, and the first word we're going to talk about is mischief. This story tells us that Anansi the spider was always up to some mischief. Let's say the word together. Mischief. What is the word? Mischief. Good job. Mischief is a behavior. Someone who causes mischief likes to play tricks. Here's another example of using it in a sentence. When I found a plastic spider in my bed, I knew someone was up to mischief. Now I'm going to say some situations. If a situation is an example of making mischief, I want you to say mischief. If it isn't, you don't have to say anything. Okay, so how about photobombing someone's picture? Mischief, good job. How about playing the piano? Good job. That is not an example of mischief. And finally, how about jumping out and scaring someone? Good. Yes, that is mischief. In the story, Anansi waded through streams. Let's say the word together. Waded. What's the word?
Waded.
Wading has to do with walking through water or mud that isn't deep. When you're wading, it usually is not too hard to move your legs or take a step forward. Some kids like to wade in puddles after a heavy rain. If you were hiking and had to cross a stream that had water in it up to your knees, what word would you use to describe how you walked across the stream?
Waded.
Good. I now am going to name some places, and if a place is where someone could wade, say slish slosh, or the noise someone might make when they are wading through a stream or puddle. If it isn't, don't say anything. Here we go. A supermarket. A creek.
Slish slosh.
Good. A mud puddle.
Slish slosh.
Good job. A hallway. Good. What is the word that describes walking through mud or water that's not too deep?
Wading.
Wading? Good. In the story, a boy tells Anansi he is very foolish to climb while carrying the calabash in front. Let's say the word together. Foolish. What's the word?
Foolish.
Good. A person who is foolish is someone who doesn't use common sense. For example, it's foolish to eat ice cream with a toothpick, right? That doesn't work. You need a spoon to pick it up. I am going to start a sentence, and I want you to think of an ending. I'd probably feel foolish if I got to school and realized that my shoes didn't match. Think of an example of being foolish. Try to use the word when you tell the story. You can start by saying, the most foolish thing I ever did was...
The most foolish thing I've done is eating cake and cookies for lunch.
Great story. I'm going to name situations, and if a situation is an example of acting foolish, say, tee-hee. If it isn't, don't say anything. Here we go. Forgetting your jacket on a cold day.
Tee-hee.
Good. Very foolish. Brushing your teeth. Good. Eating a lot of candy before dinner.
Tee-hee.
Very foolish. Studying for a spelling test. Good. What is the word that describes someone who doesn't have good common sense?
Foolish.
Good. For review, if you went swimming alone at night, would it be foolish or would it be wading?
Foolish.
Correct. It would be foolish because going by yourself, especially at night somewhere, isn't really using common sense. If you're full of mischief, are you being naughty or are you being nice?
Naughty.
Right. You're being naughty. Is being foolish making good decisions or making bad decisions?
Making bad decisions.
Bad decisions, right? If you have to wade, would you be in deep water or a puddle?
Deep water.
Let's think about that again. See, wading is when you're walking through water that's not super deep, and usually it's not too hard. So I think maybe it would be the puddle. Because you see, if you're walking through deep water, that might be kind of hard, but if you're walking through a puddle, that's a lot easier, right? Good. Good job.